Hey guys, I'm Bhagat Singh from sikhiart.com, and recently I asked you guys if you had any questions, if there was anything that was bothering you, or if you just had any questions on your mind. And the very first reply, I was not expecting the questions to be so good in the very first response. So the first set of questions I got was, what is my experience of meditation? What rituals or practices that I'm doing? What am I looking for? What am I seeking while meditating? And then what is like the end goal? What happens at the end? So I actually started recording this video like 15 minutes ago. And the first time I recorded it, I didn't even realize it wasn't recording. So this is my third time recording this video. I wasn't actually planning on coming out to record this, but I thought that because I had this on my mind that I wanted to start doing these types of talks again. The last time I did it was like so many years ago. It's on another channel, and I thought I would make this a habit, but at that time it didn't develop into a habit. So anyway, I started recording this video, and like it was going really well. What is meditation? So the first time I was recording this video, it was going really well. I thought that I was just getting everything out very eloquently and just explaining things. And well, here we are. That video doesn't exist. We'll come back to this. So my first experience with meditation, the first time I saw meditation was meditation in action. So what do I mean by that? When I was young, because I grew up in India, my childhood was in India, and on TV you would see all these serials on Hindu mythology, like Om Namah Shivaya, Ramayana, Mahabharata. And there was one serial called Jai Hanuman, and that was my first experience of seeing meditation in action. That was my first experience of seeing meditation as it is described in the Sikh concept, the Sikh scriptures, which is that it walks hand in hand with martial prowess. You know, in Sikhi we have this idea of warrior saints. Becoming a warrior saint, we have this idea of Biras and Santras, warrior essence and essence of saints. In Sikhi, you know, Seva and Simran go hand in hand. Responsible actions and meditation go hand in hand. And sometimes responsible actions means that you have to fight. And because people at that time, during the time of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, were not actually fighting for their freedom, he really emphasized the martial side of things, the ability to fight, the ability to wage war for responsible reasons, like for rights and freedoms. We can call that responsible warfare. So my first experience of responsible war, responsible fighting, responsible actions was actually, alongside meditation, was actually Jai Hanuman. Hanumanji, wherever he went, he would say Jai Shri Ram, and then he would, fight, or he would lift the mountain, or he would, do whatever that was necessary in order to serve what? Because fighting and meditation are something that you're doing in cause of something greater. And what's the greatest thing? Well, if you read Granth Sahib, the first word is Satya. Sasatatenusihari. Satya. Which means truth. If there's something that's worth fighting for, it is truth. And what do we mean? What do we mean by truth? What do we mean by truth? When we're talking about truth, we're talking about here. I'll explain like this. When you look out into the world, when you look out into the world, what you see can be false. Like you can see in my glasses what's around me. That can be false. Smell things or taste things, all of this can be false. The example that they give in Eastern philosophy and Eastern discussions is seeing a rope in darkness and mistaking that for a snake. Because both have a similar shape, so you may mistake the rope for a snake. And there's even incidents where they have stories where people mistaked snakes for ropes. In relationships, you may have misunderstandings, right? You experienced something that happened one way, and it turns out that that's not what happened. So, things in reality can be false. In Western philosophy and discussions, you have things like brain in a vat. You can look that up, VAT, brain in a vat, where your brain is like hooked up to some machine, and the machine is generating all your experience, right? So the whole thing is a lie. In reality, things can be a lie, and certainly they don't appear as they actually are, which is a huge problem. But anyway, so the things that you experience can be false, but the one thing that you can be sure is true is that you are aware of whatever is happening. The fact that you are aware, see, what you might be aware of is false, but the fact that you are aware, you can always rely on that. That is true. So what you're seeing might be false, what you are hearing and what you're sensing might be false, but the fact that you are sensing it, the fact that you are aware of it, even though you might not know what it is, the fact that whatever it is that you are aware of, that is a fact. That is something that is true. And from this, we get Satya, truth. That's what they mean by truth. Because this fact of awareness, this truth, is always true. So in your personal life, you may even be asleep, you may be dreaming, you may be awake, whatever it is, the fact that you are aware is true. Everything else may be false. It may be a misunderstanding. It may be that you're being told a lie, right? Somebody tells you a lie and you get really angry. So that anger is, based on a false foundation. But the fact that you are aware of the anger, that's always true. Does that make sense? So that is the truth. That is the ultimate truth. And we also call that consciousness. We call it Atma. We call it Paramatma. We call it Parbrahm. All sorts of things. And it is under that truth that we have things that are worth fighting for, like rights and freedoms. It is under the banner of the fact that we are aware. Because it is only something or someone that is aware. It is only someone that is aware. It is only someone who is aware that can experience the lack of freedom and freedom. Rights and things like that. What is rightfully theirs, what is rightfully not theirs. Right? All this is under the banner of awareness. It's under the banner of this ultimate truth that, the fact that we are experiencing, the fact that we are experiencing is always true. What we are experiencing may be false. So truth is worth fighting for. First, it starts with you internally, where you are fighting with yourself to recognize that what you are experiencing may be false, and you have to be skeptical about what you experience. That is the reality of this world. You have to be skeptical about what you experience. And meditation actually is skepticism, because it is the root of skepticism. You are going to the very source of your misunderstanding, which is your experience of the world. And you're saying, this experience that that's like right, it's right in front of me. This actually might not be the way that I think it is. So you're skeptical about it. And the fact that you are aware, that is true. And so what you're trying to do in meditation is you're trying to move from experiencing to developing a sort of distance from that experience and saying, this may be false, but the fact that I'm experiencing is always true. That is basically what meditation is, and I'm so exhausted from walking, because this is the third time that I started recording this video, but it's going well. So far we have the idea that fighting a response, like in a responsible way, and meditation go hand in hand, which connects to the idea that what is responsible actually comes out from when you recognize the truth. When you recognize the things that are inhibiting you and taking you away from your freedom. And it starts with, so like there might be external things that are taking away your freedom, but as you explore the things that are taking away your freedom, you start to also realize that you are part of it. You are part of what is taking away your freedom. Because you are not being skeptical about your own experiences. You are believing them to be true for the most part. And you need to be a bit more skeptical. And you need to say, the thing that I think is real may not be real. So that was my first experience of meditation, seeing it from the outside and watching Hanumanji fight battles and lift mountains and serve the truth, all the while meditating. So in coming to Sikhi, in Sikhi, responsible actions and meditation, Seva Simran, Bira Santras, warrior saint, these things go hand in hand. And they go hand in hand in the service of truth. So, what are my experiences? So after that time, I kind of stopped meditating. But actually what happened was we started attending Gurmat camps and things like that. Because I came to Canada when I was pretty young. So we started attending Gurmat camps, so we started learning Kirtan and things like that. But even at that time, like when I was young, the whole idea of Hanumanji didn't really make sense. Like at that age, I just thought it was cool. I just thought, I just liked the TV shows. And then coming to Canada, we started doing Kirtan and things like that. Even back home, we used to do pot. My dad used to take us to historical gurdwaras, and then he would get the gutka. He would get like a whole bunch of gutka sahibs, and he would give us one, and we would just try to read it, even though we weren't like the greatest readers of Gurmukhi Ki. We would just, the act of just sitting there and just holding the gutka and just trying to read whatever is written at a young age. That's what he got us to do. And then here in Canada, with the Gurmat camps and Kirtan and all that, that was my second, you could say like the second stage of my life. And my second sort of major experiences with like these types of meditation forms. These types of techniques, you can call it. So after that, during high school, I don't know if I was meditating at that time. I was meditating when I was like very young. And I think during high school, I don't know about high school, but then I think after high school, during university, that's when I started meditating again. Like I started learning about it seriously. So I started looking at what is meditation and who are the people that are teaching it, and like what are they saying. So there were many teachers. I didn't particularly, go to any particular community or anything like that. I just looked up, well, what are people talking about with regards to meditations and what type of meditations are there, and I would try them out and see how that was. What ritual? So what I've come to find out is that what type of ritual? With meditation, the whole thing is actually an internal process. So there isn't really a ritual that you could do which would, start the internal process, because the internal process has a different button, so to speak. So in order to start the internal process, you have to do it internally. And the ritual is external. So like if you are doing Nam Simran, or you're doing Kirtan, or there was this one meditation. The teacher's name was Shinzen Young, and he would teach this style of meditation where you would take note of the external stimuli, like the touching, like feeling things touch. For example, when you're sitting down, you can feel the ground or the chair below you, where you can feel your feet resting on the floor. Touch, sight, so you can see things, and sound, and you can hear things. So whatever your bodily sensations, like whatever you're feeling on your body, like your clothes, the ground, like as I'm walking I can feel the ground. That's touch. And I'm looking out and I'm seeing this park, which is sight. And sound, I'm hearing cars, people driving through the rain, although I don't think it's raining that much. I'm not hearing the rain, so that's sound. And then that's the external world. So, and on the inside you have feel, image, talk. A feel is like any feeling that you get. Image is any images that come into the screen of your mind. And talk is any kind of internal monologue or any kind of discussion that you're having with yourself. So he would say, take note of these things. So there's many techniques. I like this one because it makes you take note of particular external and internal things that are occurring. Remember that we said that with meditation, you're trying to realize that the fact that you are aware is true, and the things that you're seeing are always changing, and they may not be true. I think that's the thing I forgot to mention. The things that you're experiencing are always changing, and the fact that you're aware of it, that never changes. So the fact that you are aware doesn't change, but what you are aware of is ever changing. Like how Guru Nanak Dev Ji says in Japuji Sahib, he says, Adi Sachu, Jugadi Sachu. It was true in the beginning and then true throughout the ages. Everything is changing. The fact that you are aware never changes. Simply the awareness of what you are seeing and hearing and feeling, that never changes. And as you become aware of the different things that you are experiencing, and as you start to focus your attention, you start to place your attention on just being aware of it, that this truth then starts to become very real. You go, whoa, actually, yeah, I'm just aware of things, and this is like this ever-present dimension in my life, that I'm just aware of things. And if I simply hold that frame, if I simply hold this how can I put it? The fact that you're aware, if you can simply stay with that, just relax into, I'm aware, and nothing else, What was I saying? Yeah, when you hold this type of frame that I'm just aware, and I don't know where I was going with that actually. I don't know what I was trying to. Simply hold the idea in your head that, not an idea in your head, like this viewpoint, this perspective of simply just being aware of things. This can happen. Oh yeah, we were talking about internal trigger. So rituals are external. Rituals, any type of meditation that you do, things like Murti Puja, things like Nam Simran, things like reading scriptures, all these things are external. These like this touch, sight, sound, feel, image, talk type of meditations, all of these things are. So with the touch, sight, sound, he would have his students repeat the whatever they're experiencing every 10 seconds or so. So they would sit there, close their eyes or open their eyes, and then just note touch, and sight, sound. So all these types of rituals, these physical actions, these are external actions. Meditation is something that is happening internally, where you are starting to note your experiences. So for example, when you're doing Nam Simran, you might be sitting there going Waheguru, Waheguru, and you're trying to listen to yourself say Waheguru, Waheguru. Why are you trying to do that? Why are you... Guru Gobind Singh Ji talks about this. He says why are you Naam ratna ki hoga? If you just keep repeating a word again, what's that going to do? You could do that 1,000 times and nothing would come. Nothing would come from that. Because it's just an external action. Whereas meditation is an internal action. Or you could say it's an inaction, internal inaction. Because what you're doing during meditation is you are becoming aware of your actions, your internal actions. And you are becoming familiar with the internal inaction, the lack of action that is awareness. You're simply just being aware, right? That's not an action. You didn't do anything to just be aware. That's just who you are. You're just aware. So it's becoming aware of your actions, and then from that you realize who you are, which is simply awareness, which is not any action, not any type of action. It's just, you are just the way you are. You're just being. So that's where we get the word being from. So everybody's talking about supreme being and this being and that being. It just means that you are aware. That you are aware that you are aware. And it's easy to fall into the trap of focusing on the external ritual while not having any kind of internal kind of process going, where you're trying to be aware of you being aware. So when I paint, I do that sometimes. I just become aware of myself painting and just putting down brush strokes. And I've spoken about this before, where any kind of activity that you're doing, like washing hands or washing the dishes or driving a car, or walking as I'm doing now, you can simply just be aware that you are aware. So what are you seeking? Nothing. You're just seeking to go deep into this internal process where you are simply becoming aware, where you're simply recognizing your awareness. You're simply recognizing that you are aware. And you just kind of stay with that. That's what you're seeking during meditation. If you are seeking anything. That's what I do anyway. So what am I seeking? I'm seeking to simply be with whatever is happening at any moment in my life. So during university, I started looking at different teachers and I started looking at what they're teaching about meditation from different communities. And I started trying out these things. And in trying it, I realized this thing that I'm telling you now, which is that the entire thing is actually internal. It's an internal process. And external things may or may not trigger it. External things are just external. Like physical actions are just physical actions. You're repeating a name again and again. You're singing. You're taking a plate of lamps, lights, viva, and you're just rotating that. Or you're bowing down. All of these are external actions. And in any of these actions, you can have this internal process of meditation. So as you're listening to this, you can just simply, whatever you're doing, you can simply just become aware of it and become aware of the fact that you are listening to it. And what you'll notice when you do that with that intensity, like with full focus, what you'll notice is that you are also a thing in that awareness. You're also an entity, just like anything else. Like, for example, like I'm walking through this park, just walking back and forth like a madman. That's how we roll. Just reminding me of that song. They see me rolling. Anyway. So I'm seeing like these garbage cans and these lights and benches and things like that. As you become aware as you recognize that you are simply aware of things, like that's who you are. You see that what you thought of as you is also just another object in that. So you also become aware of like this. Okay, now we're getting really deep into it. So we're getting into Hame. So Hame is this reflective quality of the mind where it just takes credit for whatever happens. It just takes credit for it. So your body, does something. And then Hame comes in later and goes, oh, I did that. That's just the activity of the mind. So as you recognize that you're just aware, and that's ever present, and the world may be false, and then you're taking note of objects in the world, you're taking note of things in the world. Hame, or this quality of the self-reflection of saying like, oh, I did this after the fact. You also see that this is also an object in your awareness, that you also become aware of this. And you'll also notice that this quality of the mind to take credit for things that are happening, that things the body might be doing, or the things that might just happen randomly. Sometimes you take credit for that too. You go, for example, what do I mean by that? Like let's say you buy a lottery ticket and then you win. Like, I won, right? You didn't win. You just, like, there was a number, and you happen to have that number, right? And you contacted them, and then they said, oh, this is the correct number, right? So then the Hame comes in and is like, I won. The mind takes credit for that. Okay, this is a little bit too deep, I think. Because now we're at this like really subtle level where, yeah, we are talking about you. Like, your mind is correct in that, yeah, you did it. Right? I think this is important to recognize. Like, you did it. You like, let's say you wrote a song, or you sung a song, and you go, and your Hame comes in and is like, I sung a song. Is that incorrect? No, it's not incorrect. You sung that song. But just take note of the fact that there's a mental process that is looking at that event of you singing a song, and it just says like, I sung the song. Like, it's just like the script that runs like this, like a pop-up. It's just like this, like a program that it just comes up. Like, whatever you're doing, it'll just come up. I did it. Right? Yeah, you did it, right? But why is there this extra script that is running in your mind that I did it, or I sung this, or I painted that, or I did this Falani meditation? So this whole thing about meditation is just becoming aware of things. And as you become aware of things, you start to realize that the one that is aware, that is just simply being aware, that's a fact, that's true. To bring this back around to the beginning of my video, when I said that I had been recording this, like, I think this is the third recording, and I just lost the first one. In the second one, I was exhausted. Like, I'm exhausted right now because I was walking. I was walking so much as I was talking in the first one, and I'm having to just repeat all of that stuff and remember what I said, and kind of do that again. This is the third time I'm doing it. The second time, I just, like, partway through, I was like, oh, damn, I'm exhausted. I should just stop. And then I just stopped that video partway. And I'm like, no, I gotta make the video. I didn't plan any of this. I just got my jacket, umbrella, and put on a turban, came outside. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna walk, and then let's just see what happens. Whatever thoughts I get, let's just record them. So then I just lost all of that. The first video, which I thought was like pretty good, and the second one where I just like I was like all just giving up. I was, yeah. This is the reality of the world. And this sweeps you. It takes you with it. Everything is constantly pulling your attention. I also made some notes. On your questions. But if I pull them out, it's going to close this video, which is what happened the first time. I was making the video, and then partway through, I was thinking maybe I should read the questions again. And as I was reading the questions, I didn't realize that would actually turn off the camera app, and that was the end of that video. So I just kept talking as if the camera was still running when it wasn't. So things like this, they are constantly sweeping. They're constantly pulling your attention, and they're constantly generating different emotions in you, and those emotions then pull your attention. Like, try meditating when you're really angry. Try doing Nam Simran when you're really angry. It's like next to impossible. So what can save you? What can save you from all this? What can save your attention from just getting torn apart by... I want to state this mythologically. What can save your attention from being torn apart by the demonic forces of the world? And by that I just mean, in plain language, I just mean different emotions and things like that. The mundane stuff. There's so many random things that are just pulling your attention. Right? What can actually save you from that? And the only thing that can save you is recognizing that this idea that you are aware, this fact, it's a reality. So meditation is about recognizing that this is the reality, that you are simply aware. This is the only thing that can save you. This is the only thing that can prevent your attention from just being pulled in random directions. Because if you're angry, like, what are you going to do then? If you're sad, if you lose a loved one, what are you going to do then? Because that emotion is going to pull your attention. It's going to just grip it. And you will not be able to free your attention from that. But you can always come back to this fact right here, that you are aware of this grip of the emotion, or whatever it is. It could be you're scrolling on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. You're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling for 4 hours. What is the thing? What is that one thing you can rely on? I don't know if I mentioned it in this video, but I think in the first one I recorded, I was talking about how my father showed me this film called Conan the Barbarian. And in the beginning of that film, the father gives his son a sword, and he says, there's nobody else that you can trust in this world. There's nobody you can trust. And he gives him that sword and he says, this you can trust. Meditation, when understood correctly, that it's that sword. When understood correctly, meditation is that sword. It's the only thing you can trust. In Sikhi, the idea is that you are simultaneously a warrior and simultaneously a saint. That any action that you do, even if you might be killing somebody, like in a war, not as like a murderer, or like not in cold blood, I mean, but as in like a responsible sort of fight You may need to fight tyrants and things like that. And so even in that warfare, you're killing somebody. That person is it's a being. It's a conscious being. Even in that type of situation, you're meditating. You never let go of meditation. This idea that this fact of simply that you're simply aware of things. Let me repeat that. So everything in the world can be false. You could have misunderstandings and things like that. But the fact that you are aware of those misunderstandings, that's always true. So this is meditation. You always have this perspective. It's also called holding this frame. So when you're talking, when you're doing things from this perspective that I'm simply aware, when you're holding this perspective and you do it, that is called being a warrior saint. And you do this in service of the truth. You do it in service of freedom. Because this whole game is about freedom. And where does freedom start? It starts when you take control of your own self, your own attention, your perspective, and you free it from the things that could be false, and you fixate on what is true. And that's funny enough, that is the ritual. That is what I'm seeking. That is the end goal. That is what I found. And that is what I recommend, and that's what I teach. If you guys have any questions regarding anything we discussed here, because sometimes these topics can get to like really just, sometimes it just feels like weird, just from the normal perspective, like the everyday perspective. Sometimes these words or these sentences, whatever I'm saying, it may not make sense. So if you have any questions regarding it, you can let me know. Please tell me what questions you have. If there's anything that's bothering you, I would like to know that. So let me know what questions you have. Let me know what thoughts you have. Let me know if I answered your questions. If I didn't answer your questions, you can ask them again. You can clarify, or you can ask me to clarify anything I've said. All right, guys. I'll see you guys later.